in the book of Hosea, in the 10th chapter, so we can find it. Hosea and chapter 10. We'll read a verse here in just a second. All right, Hosea and chapter 10 and verse number 12. It says here, sow to yourself in righteousness, reap in mercy, break up your fallow ground, for it is time to seek the Lord till he come and rain righteousness on you. Now, context-wise, he's talking to the nation of Israel. You know that God promised them a land. And he said, if you'll follow me and be obedient, this land will, bring forth the milk and honey and all of that. And there were times that they did. When he led them there, Moses, and then it was Joshua that actually led them into the land. There were many battles. We look at then they sought a king and everything, and you read this king did what was right in that. But eventually, even the nation of Israel that were led out of Egypt by the cloud, and saw God part the Red Sea, regardless of what skeptics say. They crossed a muddy, it was a dry land, wasn't it? A miraculous recovery to go to what God, that had all of the Old Testament blessings and what God had done for them. They left their God. And God brought them in judgment. And Jerusalem was destroyed. And the prophet is saying to God's people, what you need is righteousness. He says that you will reap in mercy. And that's what we need to do today continually, is to follow after righteousness. He told Timothy, the young preacher, to follow after righteousness. Where I went to school, there were sayings on the blackboards, and they're still there, Bethany tells me, at Bob Jones University, where Dr. Bob Sr. would make little sayings and said, do right, over and over and over in every situation of life. Know what is right and follow it. Don't turn to the right or don't turn to the left. Always go on that narrow path of doing what is right. We need a nation that would do right. Then God would have mercy. We don't want to get on our country, do we? Many. It says break up that fallow ground. Why does he say break up the fallow ground? I'm not a farmer. I've never been a farmer. My great-grandfather was a farmer in Illinois. But I've seen them have the gardens, and sometimes that ground is really hard, so what do? You want to take a shovel and dig it? They get those, now you got the power, but you go to break that ground up. If the ground is hard, and you just lay some seeds on there, do we expect anything to grow? You got to break that ground up. Sometimes even in our own Christian lives, we're just too hard. We're just too rigid. It's my way. I'm going to do it the way I want to. And I don't care what the preacher says. I've done it this way, and I'm going to live this way. We better pay attention to what God says. If we don't break up that ground, who is going to? Every son he loves, he chastens. So we need to follow righteousness. For it is time to seek the Lord. Could we say that of our nation today? Could that not be a theme? It's time for us Christians, for us people that have received the Lord. It'd be wonderful if our whole world would do that. It's time to seek the Lord till he come and rain righteousness upon upon us. I'm not going to have a long time to speak about this today, and I might not get all the verses in, or I don't want you to miss the blessings of that. But, you know, we could use some rain now. The driveways are getting, you know, I have a dirt driveway, it's getting, you know, pretty dry. The yards, I'm thankful for this. I haven't had to cut the grass for a couple weeks, you know. And if it went the whole summer, I didn't have to cut the grass. I don't, you know, well, it's going to look like it's dying. Well, when you get to be older, like Harold worked many hours last night trying to get this yard beautiful. We're thankful for that. And I shouldn't have said that. He doesn't want me to praise him. And we don't do it for that, do we? We live for God. But think about this. What is this verse saying? Seeking the Lord, and He reigns righteousness. You ever been outside when it's raining? When you were younger, did you ever go out and play in the rain? Have you ever gone to the grocery store and you went in there and it thunders and lightnings and you got to get to your car and you're soaked all the way, you don't even want to go outside? Rain. What does God want to do to us? He wants to rain righteousness upon us. Ben was teaching Revelation there in the 14th chapter, and he was talking about those that were saved out of the tribulation period. Interesting passage, Ben. When I looked at that passage, I could take some of those verses that you were in there, and those verses really talk about when all of this world is over and we just begin eternity after God has done everything to this old earth that He's going to do. He says, I will make it a new earth where only dwelleth righteousness. And that new earth, it said there was no sun because Jesus is the light of that. And I think that might be some reference to that. Who can tell when you get into the study of the book of Revelation? There's some of that. But that's going to be the case. There will be a day we won't have a church service like this. We're going to be with Jesus. And we won't have a prayer meeting where we raise hands and say, well, such and such, your granddaughter is having trouble. Maybe it's with her heart. We've got to pray that God would give her healing. God can hear those prayers today, but there won't be those kind of prayers in heaven because we'll all be all well. And there will be no death. And there won't be any pain. Jesus is going to come back maybe any time the way our world system, and He's going to rapture us out. And He's going to take this vile body and fashion it to like His glorious body. As we go through these verses on righteousness, I've only talked on one and preach on that, and I've got maybe 10 or 15 more. So I can't keep you more, but we'll come back next week and we'll go over these. But you're going to find out that really what we're going to get is not my righteousness. His righteousness. And when you really look at these verses, and I've got them down there, it talks about imputing to our account. So what God did when we got saved, He took all the righteousness of Jesus, who never sinned, and put it in our life. He's forgiven our sins and given us righteousness of Jesus. And so someday, you've read the verses, when we go to heaven, the rapture, He's going to say, here's my query. And He's righteous. And He's without blame. Because He won't see me. He'll see Jesus. And that's true of every one in this room. Is there any doubt that down through the years, when people have found this, and especially in the South, they said, praise God, and shouted. My, won't it be something when God rains down the righteousness of us and we see our righteousness? Dear Heavenly Father, we're thankful for your word. And you've told us now that in our battle against the devil and against the sin of our own body, that we're to put on that armor that protects